So, on Multicultural Sunday in Townsville, we have a Mass, and I just love it because the Tokelauans from an island near Samoa in the Pacific, they dance up at the Gospel time. We have an Aboriginal welcome always at the beginning and maybe something else that the didgeridoo. And then the Italians will sing and the Filipinos will do something and they'll read in Spanish, and then the Papua New Guineans will dance, and they're all at home. No one feels that the Mass, the church, is kind of belongs to the ones born in Townsville or the European type people, or no one feels that. Because it's their church. They're all part of God's family and they know they're equal. And luckily in Townsville now we've got a couple of Filipino priests, a couple of Indian priests, and a couple of African priests, and I think that's a great thing because we've got people from so many different countries now living in our city. And Townsville's a country town in comparison with Brisbane and Perth and Melbourne and Sydney, where what I'm saying is you just can't walk out in the street, but you're seeing people from every country in the world. There's a school in one of Sydney or Melbourne where the teachers are dealing with children who speak 62 different languages at home. Imagine. 62 different languages from all over the world. But if they're Catholics, they'll all go to Mass and no one will feel an outsider. No one will feel that they don't fit in, because that's what it's meant to be all about. So the church is a community that we can all belong to. And those of us who aren't Indigenous would be concerned in the church to help a community like your own, the Indigenous community, to find its rightful place, and to take part fully in the life of the church. Because even though in society you're struggling now to find your full place in Australian society, we've got to make sure that you find your full place in the church as well. That you don't think that the church also sees you as, a small minority. No, you're a privileged people in the church. I always say I have a wonderful place in my diocese called Palm Island, which is an island with Indigenous people. Dharma knows as well, because we have a school there, we have a lot of centre care work on there, and I think we're just going to take over the childcare centre there. We have a parish there. So we're a very big player on Palm Island. And I always say, and I've said it in the cathedral, it's the most important place in our parish in our diocese. Why? Because people have suffered more there than anywhere else in the diocese. And where people suffer, that's where you find God. So it's precious to us. And Thelma, were you there for the cross and icon? And you remember Auntie Kippy? Auntie Kippy got up there. You were there. You remember her?
Yeah, special.
Very special. Because they had the riot that had, or the event that had destroyed the police station, and the policeman was let off and for killing one of their Aboriginal men and all of that. And Kippy got up there and called her people to repentance. You were going to preach and heal. And she said, Bishop, he won't, I'll tell you the background, he won't know all about what we went through. And I said, Kippy, what did you go through? And she told me the story. And then everybody said, Kippy, you tell the story. So neither of us preached. You had time later. But Neither of us preached. No, but this is the true story. And she preached better than any of us could have. She talked about her anger with God.
She was a very sick old lady too as well.
She just sat there and I held the microphone and Kippy took them on and she said, when that happened, I said to God, why do we always lose? You were there. You know what happened. How come we always lose? And she said, I was angry with God. And then I remembered what Job said. In the book of Job, who are we to know the mind of God? And I thought, Kippy, who are you to tell God what to do? And then I remembered what St. Paul said, that when we can't pray, the Holy Spirit prays within us. And I was so glad the Holy Spirit was praying, because I couldn't pray. And then she said, bit by bit I came out of it. And Father wasn't there, and I wanted to go to confession, because I couldn't go to communion. I was so angry with God. And communion's the most important thing in my life. But then I talked to Sister, and I slowly came out of it. And she said, I want to tell you, my people, she said, you've got no right to be angry with God or to hate people. You come out here to this cross and you tell Jesus yourself. And it's one of the most powerful moments of the journey of the cross around the country. And so that's a special place for us. So the church not only embraces everybody, but it's got to be there where people hurt. So you matter very much to us if there's hurt or pain in your community or in your background. And we struggle, don't we, Bishop Ryan, to work out that we're dumb and we don't know what to do half the time. But we do want to be there for you. So the challenge for you is to help young people like yourselves. Remember what Pope John Paul II said in Alice Springs? That unless you share your gifts with the church, I'm not quoting him exactly, but unless you share your gifts with the church in Australia, and those gifts are gladly received by the church in Australia, it will never be the church that Jesus Christ wants. So unless you've got what you've got to share with the church is gladly received by the rest of it, it'll never be the church that Jesus wants. So that's our Pope telling us that one of the key dynamics, one of the key things that's got to work in Australia is that Indigenous Catholics and the rest of us have got to get together for the sake of the church. So you are desperately important to the rest of us. Because if we haven't made you feel glad to be Catholic, then we're not the church that Jesus wants.